Alright, let's get on to the upgrade tips for the mythics. Starting with Mortis, we have the Survival Shovel, necessary. I personally will run Creepy Harvest, but Coiled Snake is... it's a toss-up. I'd prefer Creepy Harvest, though. His damage and shield is pseudo-required, but some people will run Gadget Charge or Speed if it's a very bushy map. Tara, her support from the Beyond is must-have, while her Healing Shade is probably preferred, but they're pretty similar. Speed is pretty much required, and damage is also pseudo-required. Her pet power is not as useful anymore now that there's so many brawlers to counter it. Jean, I'd recommend Lamp Blowout. This one's good for assassinating people, but this one just completes his kit against tanks and aggro. I would recommend running Heal as well as probably Shield, to be honest. This one's like nice for super long range maps, but unless you plan on like hitting super long range pulls, I would recommend Shield for survivability. Magic Puffs is pseudo required. Now we have Max. Phase Shifter is must have, and I would recommend Run and Gun because it just allows her to do better in short and mid range fights because she just has more ammo. However, like on some niche cases, you can play long range maps with Supercharge. That said, I would run probably Damage, but you can kind of run anything, so Damage is recommended, and then I like Heal a bit because you often kind of do these like skirmishes with Max where you go in, take some damage, and come out, and then you can heal up after those, but pros will use anything, I think. Now we have Mr. P. Surface Spell is much better in my opinion because an enemy will hit the porter, you'll almost die, and then you'll buff it back up and heal all that HP back. So this one's like, no, not really. Revolving Door is, again, it just kind of buffs his strength, which is the stupid porters. I would recommend the damage and shield. Shield is kind of necessary, and then I prefer damage just because he kind of struggles with it, and it allows him to actually hold his own in some of those fights over some other gears. Sprout, Transplant kind of required. Overgrowth is typically better and is much less situational, but there's some merits to photosynthesis on maps where there's just a convenient bush, but I would recommend Overgrowth. It allows you to hit enemies when you otherwise wouldn't. Super and Shield is pseudo required. Very important on him. Byron, this one is honestly just a toss-up. This one's just for healing, and then this one is to be able to hit an enemy consistently. Both are good. I often run this one. It's less variable. Malaise is probably better because he only has 3 hits for super, and it allows you to use your super a lot more proactively and just throw it out, hit someone, and then make sure they like are kind of out of the fight for 10 seconds or 9 seconds, I guess. Well, this one is more if you're trying to heal up teammates and you need to be able to get through them and hit that other enemies, but this one's gonna be better. Damage, shields, highly recommended. I think some people will use like Gadget for this one. And then we have Squeak. His residue is pretty much must have. It's just like essential part of his kit. This one is kind of a toss up. Chain reaction, typically better because you just get more DPS out of him. Damage, and I actually probably would recommend the Gadget Charge over the heal that I currently have. Next, I would run, or for loot, I would run Cryo Syrup 100% of the time. Hypothermia is significantly better in most all cases. There's some arguments to be made on like one zone, hot zone, with super cool, but hypothermia is just always useful. Then I would recommend epic gear 100%. His super cycling is very important. Be able to get his hypercharge later on is very strong. I would recommend health, just so you can kind of make sure you can stay in the fight and get those supers, but some people run damage against tanks. For roughs, take cover pretty much all the time, and air superiority is a must-have, because you just need to be able to destroy maps you need to be able to destroy walls in lots of maps, and it allows your team to be able to just kind of sweep maps if you have both map control and these dog biscuits. Damage shields pretty much must have. You can make an argument for gadget charge here if you're just really enjoying the take charge. Buzz, reserve buoy is usually better, but on heavily bushy maps you can run this, such as Brawl Ball. Damage, shields, or speed, they're all very good. I'd recommend getting damage first though. Eye Sharp is probably by far better. This one has, like, when you're really close to an enemy, you can stun for longer, but it's better just to get your super faster. Fang, roundhouse kick is often better because you can stun brawlers who would otherwise be able to counter you. Frank about his super you and you just stun them, something like that. Yeah, I'd recommend it though. Damage shields, you could make an argument for heal or gadget charge though. If you're just gonna like use them in random maps, I'd use Divine Souls. However, if you know you're gonna play like 5v5 or like certain 3v3 maps where you're gonna be doing more assassination, I would recommend Fresh Kicks. Eve, Gotta Go is must have. Happy Surprise, I would also say, is kind of must have because it just makes her like the essential part of her hatchlings better. Again, to further emphasize that, get mythic gear and then reload. So it really puts her into a niche of just spawning hatchlings everywhere and all the time. Janet, this one's debatable. Drop the base is going to be useful in more situations, and vocal warm-up is must-have. This one, again, kind of situational. I'd probably run damage and then heal. Otis, Fast Splatter is must-have. This one's just a goofy gadget. Ink refills is also a must-have. Must-have. This is just your undisputable lineup for him. Buster, slow-mo replay, although no longer slow-mo, is still probably a must-have, even after it's nerfed. Speed and damage is probably the best, but you could get away with having either a heal or a gadget charge, but I'd recommend damage first. Kevlar Vest is must-have. You don't really have to worry about doing damage much as Buster, because, or like as a group, because your teammates can just support you if you're in that situation, but this will reduce knockback and damage, so kind of important in his super. Gray, this one, Walking Cane is must-have. Well, this one is up to you. If you like your teammates and you like actually using the portals, this one's much more fun. However, this one is very good in long-range maps where you're just kind of doing the dance back and forth of one person hits one person once and then tries to push up. So it minimizes how effective they can be with that. If you're using fake injury, you have to run shield gear. Otherwise, I still would recommend it, but if you aren't, you can get the damage gear first. For RT, out of line actually now does something, but I still would recommend hacks because that's kind of where he's good. I would recommend damage and heal. However, if you have a very bushy map, you can run vision. Quick maths is better on most maps. However, if you know you're going to be playing a lot of like Brawl Ball, where it's bushy, or some gem maps, you can do recording. Willow, I hate Willow, but you can still make it work. Love is Blind, because no one ever actually hits their super with Willow, and Dive is going to be more important, because like it's nice to be able to do all your damage at once. It's kind of like a little spooky, but that damage will be dealt anyways if you just dive instead. Damage, shield, kind of required. Or I should not say required, but very good, and there's not many other choices. Doug, extra mustard most all the time, because it allows him to actually sweep against enemies who get a little too crazy with it, and full service, or self-service, my apologies. Very, very important, because otherwise you just can't heal yourself enough. Yeah, no one ever uses that. Damage, and then I would actually run speed, because you often need to be able to get to enemies and get to your teammates, but health is technically an option. Chuck, this one is, you honestly don't need either of them, but if you do pick one, I would go rerouting. This one, in many cases, you can get away with only having 3 posts down for Chuck, in which I would recommend this one, but some maps will just require having a 4th post, so it's map dependent. Heal and damage pretty much required, because you need to be able to heal up after you use your supers, and damage is just always useful. Charlie, I would recommend spiders. This one's good in some like stupid solo showdown or duo showdown shenanigans and that type of smoke stuff, but I would go spiders otherwise. Digestive all the way. Damage, and I personally like going gadget charge here, because in the maps where spiders is good, or the situations I should say, spiders is just having another set is very, very useful, and kind of will sweep enemies itself. Miko, clipping scream, and monkey business. This one's good for like heist, but if you're running Miko and heist, then people look down on you. I don't know. Damage, shield, pretty important. You could argue for gadget charge here, but I would recommend those first. Melody, interlude is required. Heal and damage, also very nice. But you can make gadget charge if you like using interlude. That said, it got nerfed, so it's probably a little less good now, and fast beats is going to be the way to go. Alright, we have Lily. Vanish is just absolutely like a must-have, essential part of her kit, and I would actually run or recommend having a gadget charge instead of what I picked, and I would recommend probably going speed. However, you sometimes might need to assassinate larger foes, and I would take damage in that case. That said, you're going to want to pick spiky anyways, because just being able to have an extra 1,000 damage on your supers is just very nice, or assassinations for your super. Clancy is a new brawler. I haven't really gotten to play him, but so far I think it's tactical, retreat, recon, and then damage and shield. But that one is up for debate, because I've barely played him. And that'll be mythics.